What's up, Guiding Bolt fans? This is Nick, and today we're going to be discussing what's on the other end of those hangry handbags known as bags of devouring. Now, if you haven't dug into the older source material, then you're probably only familiar with this cute little guy here. Nothing scary or intimidating about that, right? I mean, other than the fact that if your PC starts its turn inside the bag, it's devoured, and their body is completely destroyed. Well, instead of digesting our PC into oblivion, we're going to assume that they lived, at least for now, and discuss the atrocities that they can expect to face after they've been gobbled up. Welcome to the ecology of the bag of devouring. Before we jump in, I just want to cite my source and direct your attention over to Dragon Magazine, issue number 271. If you flip over to page 82, you'll find a piece titled Hidden Keepers by Kevin In Ha. Give that a read because there is a short story detailing how we came to learn about these creatures. There's also a bunch of great footnotes that go into additional details that we're not going to be covering in this video. I'm just going to be going over the illustrations and giving a short overview on the makeup of these awesome creatures. Alright, so this is the monster attached to the other end of the bag of devouring, and it is fittingly called a devourer. We are looking at a side view of it right now, and it might kind of look like a frog from this illustration because of these seemingly eyeballs up here, but you can see that those are actually villager huts. So this thing is so big that it has a small village on top of it. You can see there's a little fire pit with smoke coming out of it. So they can get up to the size of a city block, if not bigger. Depending on age. And basically all this thing is, I don't really have a colored picture of it, but just think of it as a giant floating stomach. It's just floating out there, and you can see there's a water line right there, just floating around, consuming everything. It has like the consistency of kind of like whale blubber on the outside. Their skin is kind of a darkish gray color, covered in probably seaweed and barnacles. And it is actually, their skin is edible, however, it tastes absolutely awful. So if you have to eat it in a pinch, you can carve off like pieces of it and eat it, but I wouldn't recommend it. But let's go ahead. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's go back over to our poor PC that is currently stuck inside the bag and just kind of discuss what's happening as they are being drawn down into the belly of the beast. So inside the bag, it isn't all bad, initially anyways. So it kind of smells like a old, dusty, abandoned attic. Feels like leather, like if you poke the sides, it kind of has that almost rubbery kind of texture. So it doesn't start out bad, but then you can see that there is a floor flap in the bottom of the bag. Once that opens up, that's when things start to go south. So this whole extra dimensional throat here it's filled with stomach acid. You can see that there's stomach acid inside of this thing, and it has the consistency maybe a little bit lighter than pea soup. So it's just chunky. There's bits of partially digested, probably adventurer and other stuff floating around in there, and it absolutely reeks. So just picture that flap opening up, your PC falling in, and then kind of this almost like a giant snake just slowly sucking them down into the stomach of the devourer. Now this right here, this stomach flap, that's going to open up and actually deposit them into directly inside of the beast. And if they think that they're going to, if the PC, assuming they survive this, first off, they're obviously going to need some sort of resistance to acid here, because they're just going to get eaten up otherwise. But that stomach flap right there, on this specific devourer, that is like 3 feet of pure muscle. So it's going to be pretty tough to hack your way back through there. It's going to take a little bit of time. And then obviously you're going to be wading in stomach acid trying to do that as well. So it's not going to be exactly a fun task. Now, inside of here, in addition to the stomach acid, you can see there's like some different consistencies of material. So as stuff is kind of like slowly digesting, it's just kind of like all forming there, kind of like that giant floating island of plastic out in the sea, right? Except for this is garbage and a devourer. So that's what this is. There are eggs spread around in here, and actually let's go ahead and take a quick look at this top-down view, because you can see here there's all these little alcoves. So it has a number of eggs in it equal to the number of alcoves that it has. So this one right here, we can see one side of it. It actually has, I think it's got 20 altogether alcoves, aka different bags that are like cast out into the different, planes. Could be Forgotten Realms, wherever these bags of devouring are located. So that kind of like goes all the way around. And you can see here there's a cool little top-down view of the village as well. Got some canoes and stuff floating around out there. But anyways, there's an egg in there for every one of those alcoves. Now, you can see that there's an embryo here. That's actually a hatched devourer. Once one of them hatches, it actually consumes all the other eggs as well as feeds off whatever else is floating in here to reach the age that it can survive on its own. Now, it doesn't have when they initially start out, they don't have any bags of devouring of their own. They actually have this residual mouth flap you can see here at the top. That's what they start out with, is just one single mouth right up here at the top. And that is actually a weak point on the devourer. You can see there that the skin is kind of like thinner in that spot. So it's just kind of like floating around and they're eating up everything that just kind of like flows in through the top of it. So if your PC finds themselves in here, if they discover that this is a kind of a weak spot, they might decide to try to climb up the sides of the inside of this thing and get up there to try to hack at that. The only problem with that is obviously it's going to be difficult to climb because you can see here it's kind of, it's just a dome shape. There are ridges all along the top of this thing, or kind of like all around the inside. And think of it like the roof of your mouth. So there's like, little bumps and ledges, and obviously they're a lot bigger because of the size of this thing. So they could potentially get their way up there. However, you might have noticed this right here. There is an eye above the alcove. So just like the eggs, there is an eye for every single one of those alcoves. So as they start to like climb up the side of this thing, or depending on what they're doing inside the mouth or the stomach of the devourer, they might cause it to wonder what's going on, and these eyeballs can open up and kind of monitor it. And obviously if they're going to try to climb up there and hack their way through the top of it, it isn't going to be exactly happy about that. It's probably going to be trying to do stuff to prevent that from happening. So this one has 20 eyes, and those eyes, it described them as cat eyes, except for like filled with cataracts. So just kind of imagine a just bulbous, milky eyeball, cat eyeball staring at you. Yeesh. Let's see here. So what else do we got going on? You can see that there is a bunch of partially digested matter. That's the kind of flows out from the garbage island here. And then there is undigested metallic gravel. And this right here is what the PCs are probably going to be interested in, assuming that they're still alive. Because what that is that's going to be like copper, silver, gold, jewels, gems, all the stuff that takes longer to break down is going to be collected right here. Now it will slowly break down. Like flesh, leather, parchment, all that kind of dissolves immediately. Wooden bones takes a little bit longer, and then metal, gems, stuff like that can take months to break down. Now, there obviously could be magical items down here as well. However, they will eventually succumb to the acid inside the devourer as well. And kind of a cool thing about them is if they devour enough magical items, they can actually develop a sentience. So they may be able to actually telepathically speak to the PC. It's not going to be it's not going to be a philosophical conversation or anything like that, because even though it has sentience, it isn't going to be that smart. So as far as getting out of the inside of this thing, so there is this flap here, the residual mouth flap up there. Both of those are going to be difficult. You probably guessed where the easiest way to get out is going to be. Out the poop chute. If they make their way down to here and then agitate the devourer, it will shoot them out into the water. So that is going to be the best option that they have for escape if they figure it out. However, you kind of go out of the frying pan and into the fire pit up top here, because the villagers that inhabit these things, they are typically cannibals. So even though the devourer might not eat them, the cannibals on top of the thing, if it's inhabited, are probably going to eat them instead. So one way or another, they probably aren't getting off the menu. I think that about covers it. I don't want to make this video too long. I want you to go out and pick up that magazine and read this yourself, because this is a really cool article. It basically goes into how these things are discovered and how we know all this information. So go check that out for yourselves. If you have any questions, toss it down below. I'll try my best to answer it. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.